I had known Lieutenant Colonel Randall for the better part of a decade. We served together in the Martian Colonization Corps, cracking jokes over the rough-hewn, rusty landscape of our red neighbor. But lately, Randall was different. He was too cautious, constantly looking over his shoulder as if anticipating a strike from an invisible foe. His once steady hands now trembled slightly whenever he activated his neurocom link, and his eyes often glimmered with a sheen of worry. The first clue came during a routine mining survey at Vales Marinaris, one of the deepest chasms on Mars. The scanners picked up an anomaly, something beyond Martian geology. An artificial structure buried deep beneath the regolith. Randall's behavior shifted then. He became obsessively protective of the discovery, barely letting anyone else near it. I confronted him during a rare downtime in the mess hall. "Randall, you're hiding something." He looked up sharply, his fork hovering inches above his plate of synthetic steak. "It's classified, Alex," he muttered, avoiding eye contact. "But it's eating you alive." "What is it?" I pressed on. His eyes darted around to ensure no one was eavesdropping before leaning closer to whisper, "Something's wrong with this discovery. It doesn't belong here, or maybe even in this universe." It was then I realized how deep the rabbit hole went, and how critical it was to uncover what Randall was hiding before it was too late. His cryptic statements and increasingly erratic behavior suggested a perilous secret that threatened not only him, but potentially everyone in our outpost. The next week, I resolved to dig deeper. I discreetly accessed Randall's private logs using my engineering override codes. A risky move that could lead to severe disciplinary action if discovered. The logs were full of encrypted entries, unintelligible without Randall's personal decryption key. That night, I noticed Randall leaving the barracks under the pretext of a midnight patrol. I trailed him, my steps muffled by the soft Martian soil. He led me to Lab 12, which was a concealed lab situated away from the main outpost. Inside the lab were rows of unfamiliar devices, quantum oscillators and hyperfield generators. Items that were far beyond our standard Martian tech. In the middle of the room stood an obelisk-like structure, emitting a faint hum, its surface covered with shifting symbols that defied translation. As I was watching from a concealed area, Randall left the lab to retrieve something, and I took this opportunity to analyze the obelisk and get a better look at it. Before I could fully analyze the object, Randall returned. I barely had time to hide behind a storage unit as he approached the obelisk, inserting his keycard into an integrated slot. "I have no choice," he muttered to himself as the device activated. "This thing is waking up." I then knew that I had to confront him again, and that there wasn't much time left. 2 days later, during a solar storm lockdown when everyone else was confined indoors, I cornered Randall in his quarters. "Randall, whatever you're doing down there, you need to stop before it kills us all." He sighed deeply and gestured for me to sit. "All right," he began wearily. "You deserve to know what's happening." He pulled out a handheld projector and displayed what looked like ancient star maps overlaying our modern charts. "This," he pointed to a particular constellation, "is where this obelisk came from. A civilization predating humanity by millions of years. But why here? Why now?" I asked incredulously. "These beings experimented with singularities. Pocket universes nested within our own," he explained hurriedly. "The obelisk is a gateway they constructed. So why hide it? We could inform Earth Command." "You don't understand," he whispered urgently. "Activating it could either unlock infinite resources or collapse space-time in this sector." His confession left me reeling. A high-stakes gamble hung over our heads, and we needed to deal with it. "What do we do now?" I asked breathlessly. "We have to destroy it before it activates itself," he responded grimly. Just as we formulated a plan, the alarm blared. A breach in Lab 12, where the obelisk was stored. "Too late," Randall muttered as we raced towards the lab. As we arrived, what we saw made my blood run cold. The obelisk had transformed into an active gateway. Strange tendrils of energy stretched into our reality from an unfathomable distance away. "We've got to shut it down," Randall shouted over the escalating noise. But as we approached the control panel, an explosion rocked the lab entrance. Intruders in exosuits swarmed in. They weren't part of any known faction. Their insignias were alien and threatening. The lead intruder fired a shot that grazed Randall's arm. He collapsed with a scream but managed to hurl his keycard towards me. "Finish it," he gasped through clenched teeth. Bending down and grabbing his keycard with trembling hands, I sprinted towards the control console as beams of energy crisscrossed, trying to stop me from reaching my goal. Just as my fingers reached the activation button to initiate shutdown procedures, everything froze in place. Time itself seemed suspended for an excruciating moment. And then a voice echoed in my head. "We've been watching you. Welcome." The screen flashed green and faded into darkness just as time resumed its chaotic flow around me. The alien intruders evaporated into thin air, along with their equipment, leaving only stunned silence behind. Except for one thing, the gateway remained ominously open. Randall lay unconscious on the lab floor. When I checked him, I found that his breathing was shallow, but he was still alive. And then I noticed that the alien energies were still seeping through from the active obelisk. They were no longer just another threat, but they were now also an enigmatic invitation, beckoning from beyond our reality. Our journey had only begun, and secrets yet untold awaited within.
This is the end of Chapter 1, The Whispering Quantum, which is from our short storybook The Hidden Singularity, written by Wesley McIntyre. Chapter 2 will be released soon. If you've enjoyed this story, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you will always be up to date with our new releases.